stand by. Access to the Monte zone will be granted shortly. Please stand by. Access to the Monte zone will be granted shortly. Please stand by. Access to the Monte zone will be granted shortly. Please stand by. Access to the Monte zone will be granted shortly. Please stand by. Monte Zone will be granted shortly. Please stand by.
Everyone, and welcome to the Monte Zone. It's Friday. It's 8 o'clock.
Please stand by.
It's the Monte Zone. Hey. You love Fridays. He loves being in the zone. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay there on getting things up and running, but we are here. It is Friday. It is 8 o'clock. It's the Monte Zone with myself, Monty Ban, and my ever-suffering co-host, G-Star. Ever-suffering. How are you this week, G?
Apologize to all the zoners on Facebook that since I uploaded my first G-Star Vault reaction video, I haven't done anything else on the page. So sorry it's been a bit inactive this week, but I will be back on it next week.
Yeah, I forgot to unmute you there for the beginning of that.
Oh,
I got you back. I recovered the situation. But yeah.
So how far would have people?
It was classic Monty moment.
Great.
Yeah, it's my way. It's the way I do things.
Oh, they missed the whole thing about the Friday T-shirt and about me being in the zone.
Oh gosh.
Oh, never mind.
But you're in the zone. You're with us now. We can hear you. Yay.
So I was just saying, for those that didn't hear it, it's been a good week, but it's been quite busy for me, unusually busy. And so I haven't done anything more on the Facebook page. So since after I uploaded the first G-Star Vaults reaction video, but I will be back on it next week.
Yes. And for myself, I had my first jab this week. I'm now immune.
Well, you're not fully immune until you have your second one.
Oh well,
right?
no, that's true. That's true. And it was the AstraZeneca one, so it means I'm probably going to have a leg drop off through a blood clot or something.
I'm scared. I got my first one on Sunday.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. He
says the man that was ill for like 24 hours.
Yeah, it's just a 24-hour thing. Well, some people have been absolutely fine with it. For me, it was just like a bit of a sort of 24-hour fever type moment. But everybody, I think, is different with it. So depends. It depends.
So, hi to Anna. Anna's joined us.
Oh,
this
Anna
evening.
Banana's on. Hello, Anna Banana. Hello to everybody else in chat. Hi to Dan, who came along quite early. He was right in there. D-Bot, good evening to you. And Smiler Rainbow.
Good evening to Dan M as well. He gave me a call this afternoon. Was worried he wasn't going to make the show because he just got off a flight back from Romania and was racing from the airport back home, but he's managed to get on time. So thanks for joining, Dan.
Wow, racing back from Romania to get off of the Monte Zone. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's
Really
great to
good
have
spot.
you with us, Dan. It's really great to have you on board for our little journey tonight into the missing.
Oh yeah.
I will say that,
My notes have gone missing.
well, I haven't got that many notes this evening. I will say, nothing like a TNG review, but I've got a couple of notes.
My 3 pages will make up for it then.
Oh, you got 3 pages? Wow, that's pretty
Typed.
cool. Typed. You.
Yeah.
No, that's
It's called copy and paste.
Yeah, very good. Yes.
I just like to be organised. I see type better than my own writing.
Yeah, I tried doing that for one of the TNG reviews, just copy and pasting someone else's notes. It did not work for me at all.
I'm not a millennial by no means,
No.
but I do join the millennials in the fact that I prefer reading type than my own handwriting.
Well, no,
I've
that's
lost
true.
that
I can't
skill.
read. I can't read my own writing, but I do like my pads and paper. Also, good evening to Mazza with Bob. The Mazza has joined us this evening. Good evening to you. I will say, just caveating this episode slightly, we are talking about some missing people stories this evening. They're all true stories, and some of them may be harrowing to some people, especially if you've had you missing loved ones and things. So, just a slight warning that some of the content, the subject matter of this evening may be
Distressing.
distressing for some. So I just want people to go into, it shouldn't be too bad, but just go in with your eyes open, type thing. Yes. So we're talking about 2 main subjects this evening. We've got some famous missing people, and we're going to be covering some of the subjects of missing 411, which is a sort of recent subset of missing people cases that have become a sort of pop culture kind of phenomenon all to themselves. Let me just mute my phone. There we go.
Just before we get heavily into it, because we've got a lot of people joining us on chat this evening, and your support has been absolutely amazing. So thank you for always tuning in. But what we were just talking about off air is that we would really like to set a target of making 100 subscribers on this channel. So if any of you guys can help us with that by, if there's a particular episode that you really like of the Monte Zone, sort of sharing it on your social media, trying to draw some people into us on YouTube that hopefully may subscribe, that would be fantastic support.
Yes.
Are we still streaming?
I don't know. I'm seeing bad lag on my stream. Badness. I'm hoping you guys can.
I had noticed that sort of the live chat wasn't showing the. It all of a sudden dropped off to only one person.
What's going on? I got perfect internet. I don't know.
We're watching it through you, so we didn't notice, but on our other devices it doesn't seem to be.
Dan says he can still hear us. I don't know. Well, Dan's still there. It says it's Dan's still there. I don't know. Yeah, there we go. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I've not got it on my.
Yeah, it seems to be coming up. I mean, I've got it up on.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's still coming up. Yep. So It's still working for Dan M as well. So yeah,
Oh,
let's
it's
just
still
crack
working
on.
for Dan. Okay, right. Well, we'll just keep going with it. If you could just make sure people are not on it, make sure everybody's off the internet. I do know that when I'm doing a stream, because it heavily revolves around me having upload, making sure everybody else in the household is not taking up the bandwidth.
Well,
But it's,
my two doggies are up the house this evening, so hopefully they're not on sort of iPads or something up there. You know.
it's weird because it's saying in my control panel, I got a control panel, like it's a studio thing, where it tells me how well the stream's doing, and it tells me it's dead and we have no viewers. Even when people are telling me it's working, it still tells me it's dead and we've got no viewers. So I don't know. I don't know who to believe right now. I think I mentioned like missing 411 and
Everything went missing.
everything just started dropping out.
Oh,
yeah.
Becky's on as well, and she says it keeps dropping out, but
Yeah.
we'll just have to proceed and carry on.
Well, yeah, we'll just have to just keep going the best we can.
Just let us know in chat, guys. Well, if it drops, I guess nobody can let us know in chat, but try and just keep commenting, and then at least we know you're still able to see and hear us.
Yeah, that's all. That's all we can do. There's a couple of things I can do when I know I'm having problems. I'm just tweaking with things, to see if that helps.
So just in case, while Smart Monty's doing that, just in case anybody missed what Monty was saying earlier, so this evening's episode, we've called it The Missing. It's sort of got two categories, really. We're going to be talking about some cases of missing famous people, and then we're going to be talking about some cases that have come from what is known as Missing 411, which is a group of cases that are now being pulled together by certain documentary producers, etc. And you can find the Missing 411 documentary on, I believe it's Netflix.
It's Amazon Prime, I think.
Oh, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we were doing a bit of a disclaimer as well, and just saying that, just giving a bit of a warning that some of the content of what we will be discussing, especially when we come to the Missing 411 cases, might be distressing to some. So just a little bit of a warning about that.
Yeah. So we're going to start off this evening with a couple of the famous cases of missing people that we thought would be interesting just to have a quick chat about before we get into the 411 things. And I think you wanted to start with 1G.
Oh, did I?
I could start.
Me.
I'll start. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go on. You start.
So, and we chose this one because it's really the most famous, I think, one of the most famous missing people that ever went missing, and that is Amelia Earhart. So Amelia Earhart was a female pilot. Smiler Rainbows now says that it seems all okay now. All is well.
Yeah.
It seems.
Becky commented as well and said it's okay now, though.
Yeah, my control panel still says no. Says no, things are not all well. It's still giving me big red exclamation marks all over the place. But we'll keep going anyway. Yeah. So Amelia Earhart, she was the first. She was the first female pilot, literally the first female pilot in history. I didn't know this, but she was actually the first female. First, she became the first female to be a passenger across the Atlantic. So, on a transatlantic run, when this was the first transatlantic flights that ever happened, she was one of the first passengers. So she became the first female passenger to ever fly across the Atlantic. But she was also a pilot in herself. So not long after that, she returned the journey and actually became the first female pilot to fly across the Atlantic. And I think she did that in, I think it was 1935. But she has a lot of flying records. Daniel Godwin says computer says no. Yeah, it is a bit like that this evening by the looks of things. Everything is going against us. Yeah, over half of the frames, it says, are still dropping out. But eventually she decided to turn her hand to flying, circumnavigating the globe in a plane. And in that flight, she very nearly accomplished it, but she went missing over the Pacific. And was never found. And the strange things about that was, this was, I think, in 1937. In that last leg of the Pacific, she realized that they were running out of fuel, and she made contact with Howland Island, and stayed in contact with them. She couldn't see the island, or I think it was like bad weather, or there was fog, and so.
Gone.
Sorry.
Appears to be gone.
What?
He gone. Went bye bye on everything.
Could.
I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
Yeah, has gone.
It just dropped out completely.
Could you guys? You're not running off the network though.
Nobody's on the network.
No one's on the network.
All computers are off.
All computers are off.
Everyone's running off Mummy's
No,
phone.
Anna's computer might be on.
No, it won't be.
I don't. The family are running. The family are running errands, just trying to make sure all the computers are off in the house. But yeah. Please put in chat if you can still hear me, or whether I'm just talking to myself. I'm not so sure. But
maybe it's StreamYard service, or the server that streaming off of.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just keep going.
Yeah, you seem to
Yeah, we
be
seem
going
to be
now.
back on.
Yeah.
Just drop out completely, but hopefully it'll be alright.
What?
It's
Okay.
okay if you're back on now.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah, no, I've forgotten where I was. Amelia Earhart, she disappeared. Yeah, she was heading towards Howland Island. They were guiding her in, and they thought she was just some way north off the island, and then they lost signal with her, and she was never heard from again. And the weird thing about it was that there could have only been a relatively short distance in radius of where she could have disappeared from, for a search radius, because they could only communicate out so far, and they knew, like, pinging the airplane that it would be in a certain distance, but they never found a plane, and people have literally spent the last 100 years, nearly 90 years, searching for her plane, and organizations have spent millions and millions searching for her plane, and not one shred of evidence has ever turned up. And the conspiracy theories for this are many, as is likely for a high-profile person like Amelia Earhart to disappear over the Pacific. Some of the most prominent ones are that she she faked her own death. There was lots of things about her. She came from a prominent family that had a lot of money, and they lost the money through investments, and maybe she was having problems in her marriage or something, and just to get out of debt and marriage, and maybe she just faked her own death and disappeared in the Pacific. Some of the others are that she was shot down by the Japanese, because we're heading towards World War II and Pearl Harbor and all that sort of thing. Maybe she was shot down by the Japanese. There was recently a photograph that was made public that shown a picture on the. I don't think anybody's with us. I think I'm just talking to myself at this point, G. I don't think anybody's there. There was a picture of Amelia sat on a dock in Japan, or there was a picture of what looked like a Caucasian couple on a Japanese dock, and then people were saying that one of the figures that had a back to us was Amelia, and then a guy that was stood up to her left was her co-pilot. But and they said that was filmed because they were rescued by a Japanese ship that brought them back to this dock. But it's been debunked. That whole photo has been debunked. Oh, people are saying they're here. Oh, that's nice. Sorry, there's a delay. There is a delay on the stream now because of all the issues. So if I ask things, and oh, they're all still here. Oh, that's so nice to see. I'm now hardened.
You're not just talking to nobody.
No, because my control panel says nobody's watching, but everybody's there. Oh, that's nice. That's really good. Yeah. So the other conspiracy theory is that yes, one of them was that they were just shot down and killed by the Japanese. The others were they were captured and then tortured and held for ransom, and basically they died in a Japanese prison. But to be honest,
I mean, that's one of the strong theories, isn't it? Because there is it's a big thing about the fact that there's rumor that they were carrying something that was more military based, or they were doing some reconnaissance for.
Yeah, they were spies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, there's no real. I mean, their mission was a one-off, and it was well publicized. Everyone around the world knew about it. It was a bit like the moon landing, you know. It was, if you're going to do a spy effort, really, it's usually under the curtains, and you don't really want people knowing about it, but because people hide things away if they know it's coming, you know. It's not like they were high orbital spy platform or something like that. So I don't buy any of those things. And the Japanese were really interested in this story as much as anybody else. So I think if they had managed to find Amelia Earhart, or managed to rescue her, they would have probably have promoted that as a massive thing, rather than hide it, you know, because she was an international, she was an international star of her time. You know, she's not a nobody. She was like Marilyn Monroe of the aviation world, you know. Yeah, I've got a picture. I've just brought up the picture of the picture I was talking about. Open that in a new tab. Oh gosh, it's tiny. Oh, but it's really bad quality. Anyway, I will just share that.
So if you are with us, guys, maybe in chat put what you think happened to Amelia Earhart. Be great to hear your thoughts.
So this is the picture I'm talking about. This is the picture that was declassified and come out of Japan, and people are saying that that person there in the middle was Amelia Earhart on a Japanese dock.
And what's the other red circle?
Her co-pilot. They reckon that's her co-pilot. But how they can make out that's anybody, and this is literally as good as the photo gets.
And you said it was debunked. How did they debunk it?
They debunked it by recognizing the boats around it and working out when this was actually taken.
Clever.
And it turned out that it was taken before the events that they said it was taken, like several years beforehand. Right. These were fishing boats, and these are all just Japanese fishing people. It wasn't anything. Yeah, it wasn't anything that they said it was. So that was the first thing, really. It was, but yeah, she has become a sort of poster child. For missing people. So we thought it's a good place to start, as she's probably, in the past 100 years, one of the most famous missing people that there's been on this planet. Daniel Godwin saying he's not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
well, we kind of do know that it was, because they took her and to that planet where, like, Voyager,
Star Trek Voyager,
yeah, and they unfroze her from cryo, yeah. So we know that that's what happened. No, just joking. But all joking aside, that is like one of the theories in the theory wheel for Amelia Earhart as well. In the UFO community, there's been mention in the past that they think that the plane might have been abducted by aliens.
So what have you got for us? What famous missing person have you got for us, G?
Well, I have got coming a little bit forward into the 20th century, straight up to the year of my birth, 1975, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about Jimmy Hoffa. So for those of you that don't know, just to give a little bit of background to Jimmy Hoffa, I mean, for me, I was familiar with the name. You've kind of heard the name before. I actually did think that he was an ex-president, but not a president of the United States. But he was a president of sorts anyway. If you wouldn't mind, Monte, in the email, the bottom picture, I've got a little bit of a picture of Jimmy Hoffa that I can share so that everybody knows what Jimmy looked like. Anyway, Jimmy Hoffa was a union.
Do you want me to add? Oh, hang on. Was that one of the pictures you emailed me?
Yeah, it's the bottom one.
Hang on.
So Jimmy Hoffa was a union activist. He became an important regional figure with the IBT. Now, the IBT is the International Brotherhood of Teamsters by the mid-20s. And by 1952, he was national vice president of the IBT. And between 1957 and 1971, he was the general president. So he was a president of sorts, but just not what I thought, the president of the United States. But yeah, just to explain, because it didn't really come across in the name, but the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was kind of like a trade union of sorts. He played a major role in the growth and the development of the union, which eventually became the largest by membership in the United States, with 2.3 million members at its peak during his term as leader. However, Hoffa became involved with organized crime from the early years of being in the Teamsters, a connection that continued until his disappearance in 1975. He did serve time in prison. He served 13 years in prison and I think was released in mid-1971. He resigned as president of the union, but he then petitioned against a communication agreement with US President Richard Nixon, and he didn't serve the full 13 years, actually. I don't think he only ended up serving 1 year. So yeah, that was a bit of a background of Jimmy Hoffa, but just to explain how he disappeared. So in 1975, he went into a diner in Chicago and was never seen again. So the biggest and most popular theory around Jimmy Hoffa's disappearance, because they've never ever found any evidence, none of the remains, but the biggest theory of all is that he was taken out by the mafia, where he had connections and was involved. And there's rumor that he had tried to put out certain hits on certain mafia members, and that's why they were preempting, and he got taken out. So basically, I didn't bother pulling them all off. There's like a lot of different theories about where Jimmy Hoffa died exactly, or where he's buried, but they're all very similar in terms of involving the mafia, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute. But just some of the top things about some of the conspiracy theories around him. Some people believe that he is or was buried, taken out by the mafia, and then buried under the stadium, the new stadium that was being built for the Giants, the New York Giants, and because it was being sort of built at the same time as his death. There's another rumor that he's buried under a building called the Renaissance Building. I think that's in Chicago. Apologies if it's not and I've got that wrong. But it's funny, there's actually been quite a few times where the FBI or police in certain counties have gone to particular destinations and dug it all up. So there's been one case where I think they did a dig up of somebody's backyard. They did another one, and it's just because of people that have come forward and said that they know something, and then the FBI or the police have followed up on that, and it's always been a dead end, really, and fake. But the reason why it's felt that there's a lot of because there's a number of different mafia people, individuals that have come forward and said that they know circumstances about Jimmy Hoffa's demise, and the belief of why that's so or has been popular is because with some of these mobsters, certainly around still the sort of 70s and 80s, they were small figures within the mafia, and so by saying that they knew something or had some involvement in the Hoffa takeout, then it kind of pushed their status up a little bit within the mafia, and that's why it's felt that. But all of these people that have come forward, it's all been investigated, and it's been proven that actually there's not a great deal of truth to anything they're declaring. In fact, some of them were in protective custody with secret identities and still came forward to say that they knew something about Jimmy Hoffa's demise. But what I found out that was quite interesting was quite recently. So I think this article was from 2018. There's a professor of criminology called James Buccellato. He's the professor of criminology and criminal justice at the Northern Arizona University. And he has a new theory that Hoffa was murdered at a home in Bloomfield Hills, near where he disappeared on July 30th, 1975. He believes that Hoffa was lured from the parking lot where he was to meet with mafia leaders and taken to a nearby property owned by mafia member Carlo Licata. This professor claims that Hoffa was then murdered at the property before he was transported to a nearby crematorium. Now, the thing about this crematorium is that it's believed that this crematorium, not believed, it's actually been proven that the crematorium was owned by certain people within the mafia. So it was something that they quite cleverly did to dispose of. It was a very different time back then. The way these guys conducted themselves was, horrendous, and it was a very different time. But, they had set up a good, if you're going to particularly do a crime, a good system where they had taken control of certain crematoriums. So if they kind of murdered off somebody, it was quite easy for them to quickly take that body to the crematorium and then evidence gone. So although this is a sort of new theory that's emerged, and it's kind of, there's some factual stuff around it where they've been able to prove that, there was a member of the mafia or one of the senior people in the mafia that owned the crematorium. But the problem is that it doesn't help solve the mystery of Jimmy Hoffa, because if that was what happened, no remains will still be found, and there's no way of 100% proving it. So the mystery about Jimmy Hoffa will always remain forever, but his body still remains undiscovered, and anything concrete about his disappearance. So
anything concrete?
It was an intentional pun, that one.
Yeah. Have you got a feeling where he is, G, after reading about Jimmy?
Well, do you know what? I was reading, as I said, a lot of the cases of these mobsters that came forward and said that they had knowledge and stuff, and every single one has been pursued in a sort of official capacity, but come to nothing. This guy that's come forward, and has obviously been doing some research. He's a criminologist, and he's been looking into files and things like that. And I think that this theory sounds quite solid. I think the reason why no body's been found is because it was disposed in the best way that you can dispose of a body. And again, in some of the other cases where mobsters come forward, one guy said that he was put into a car that was taken to a wreckage place, and he was squashed and compacted with the car that then went off as parts to Japan to be recycled, and made a joke that Jimmy Hoffa was part of a Japanese car.
Basically, we're never, as Dan M in chat said, we will just never know what happened to Jimmy Hoffa.
No, but luckily those sort of things hopefully don't happen anymore. But he certainly played a dangerous game, and that's why it's easy to make the connection with the mafia. In fact, his son, I can't remember his son's name, but obviously ends with Hoffa. He went on to
Jimmy Hoffa Jr.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa Jr. Let's call him that. Actually, I think that is his name.
Probably. It was the way they did things back then.
Yeah. Anyway, he was actually president of the IBT in 1999. That's the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the union. And he actually did this whole thing where he was doing this speech to a whole bunch of truckers as part of like the trade union thing. And he was saying that, the mafia will never, take control again. If I'm the president, I'll make sure that none of you have to ever worry about the mafia ever again. And so I thought that sounded a bit risky. Like he's, going to follow down the footsteps of his old man in a minute. Be careful.
Yeah.
But but that was back in 1999, so a good 22 years already. So
yeah.
But who knows? I would probably assign to the theory that I think he was, definitely taken out by the mafia and then probably cremated, and that's why
we will never know. We'll never find him. He's now dust in the wind.
I did forget to mention one of the theories was that the FBI kidnapped him and dropped him out of a plane over one of the Great Lakes.
All right.
Yeah. So some of the theories do go a bit crazy.
It sounds more of a CIA operation, really, than FBI, really.
But there is a film that's come out
NSA.
recently. I believe it's called The Irishman.
It's been talked about in chat.
What, The Irishman?
Yeah, both Dan Godwin mentioned that it's a great film, and Dan M agreed.
I haven't actually seen it myself. But one thing is that I do believe in that film it features the death of, or the murder of Jimmy Hoffa, and
Mm.
because the Irishman is one of the gangsters that made claim. But those claims, just to let everybody know, not to disappoint any fans of the film Irishman, those claims were, or before the Irishman film was even made, have been found to be fake. And so, people that have truly investigated this case over the years were a bit worried about the Irishman film because they thought that it would be so popular with, I think, Robert De Niro's in it. That it would then become part of pop culture, that a lot of people would think that that was the way in which Jimmy Hoffa was taken out or disposed of, and it's not true at all. So sorry to disappoint anybody.
I think Becky's also pointed out, I think his son's maybe James Hoffa. Yes, everybody's on a bit of a delay. I'm still getting alerts over and over again that my stream is trash. I can't help it. We've tried everything, but we're just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So that was our sort of our foray into some of the more famous individuals in the world that have gone missing, and then we're gonna go into the missing 411, and I don't know what 411 means, and looking into it, I don't think anybody knows what 411 means.
I was under the impression, and this is just an impression, but I thought originally it was called the Missing 411 because they had researched 411 cases.
Nope, don't think that's the case. No, I think 411 might be a code, like a police code or something like that.
It might be a description.
People, it's a 411. I think it might be that, but definitively, I don't think anybody really is clear on why it's called missing 411.
So it would be either 5 times less important or 5 times more important than a 911.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the 411 is a series of books by a chap called David Paulides. Paulides, I think that's his name, Paulides, who is a former policeman who I think probably something after he retired or something took up writing and exploring the outdoors, and I think he started with looking at the Bigfoot phenomenon, and looking into Bigfoot started investigating missing people. And that sort of, as with a lot of us, whenever we're investigating things, took him down a rabbit hole, and he's never came out of it. he's gone neck deep into the whole missing people thing, and he's written a series of books about missing people in the United States under the guise of the missing 411, and they're called missing 411 because these people, there is a sort of certain criteria where these missing people fall into. So these are people that have gone missing in the national parks of America in particular. They generally go missing from actually on a trail in those national parks, generally in front of friends and family. So they've been walking, hiking or whatever, and they've just gone out of view, or they've just walked back along a trail to between people, or something like that. But it's not like they've been a million miles out in the wilderness from everyone. It's basically they've been on a trail. This trail's been near a boulder field and or rivers. The person that's gone missing is found, well, either not found, but if they are found, they're found a long way off of where they went missing. Whether they're found dead or alive, but they're found not where they're expected to be found, but quite some distance away. And that's about it. That's what I got from the from the various videos that I watched on the subject. That was my sort of like what I got from the commonalities of the stories that I saw.
Yeah, I mean, there is a criteria, isn't there, that they try to stick to determine whether they think a case is a 411. You know, and it has to have certain things involved. I think if you watch the documentary, it's one of the first things, and they keep going back and referring to it as well. So there has to be a situation where it happened. You know, I can't remember some of the criteria, but I think there's about 14, 15 different criteria.
Yeah, I couldn't actually find like a list on the internet. I just made up my own from the stories that I heard. But
yeah, I mean, you covered the most important stuff, really.
Yeah. I think a lot of them are near water and mountains, and the boulder fields are like a bit of an interesting one, but a lot of the stories do include that. Yeah, and he hasn't gone down the whole explaining it all through aliens and Sasquatches yet, but some of the stories are pretty spooky. Yeah. Oh, bless. Smiler Rainbow says the whole of the Monte family are now off the internet to help my stream along. I know it's strange. I seem to be getting like perfect reception, but whether it must be Streamlabs because I use Streamlabs, but it's still it's having a bad time of it for whatever reason. This might be from YouTube's end. It might not have anything to do with my personal internet. It might be just purely some issue with YouTube.
Maybe they're just stopping us from getting the conspiracies out there.
I know,
you know what I
they
mean?
just don't like what we're talking about.
I have to be honest. I was watching I was watching YouTube the other day and come across this YouTuber who, it was a pre-recorded episode that he was doing. He was obviously a Bigfoot enthusiast, but he also does live streams. And he was ranting about on this video about the fact that the day before he'd been doing a live stream at night, and they'd seen Bigfoot on the live stream, and then all of a sudden after the live stream finished, his video disappeared and couldn't be found anywhere on YouTube. You know, so I'm thinking,
Yeah,
maybe they're trying to keep us quiet. The Men in Black.
the Men in Black. Yeah.
Ben would relate to that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start my first story. I don't know, my first story of the missing 411. So it's a bit of a campfire. Imagine we're all sat around a campfire, and Dan M's there with his marshmallows, and Dan Godwin's got a sausage on a stick, and maybe someone's got a guitar. I don't know. Don't know why.
I got a guitar.
You got a guitar, yeah.
Yeah, it's right there.
So it's one of those types of stories. And I'll begin. So this story is going from April the 29th, 2001. And it centers around a young 6-year-old girl called Haley Zager. Haley and her grandparents were out for a hike in the upper Buffalo Wilderness in Arkansas, which is about as Central American as you can possibly get. It's deep Central America in the wilderness. And they were on a hiking trail. They were hiking up to a nice bluff where they could have a look at a lovely view. And they had a lovely day. And on the way back, Haley spotted a waterfall just off the path. And she wanted to go down to the bottom of the waterfall and see it in all its splendor. And she was gesturing to her grandparents to let her down there. And the grandparents had a look at it and saw that you had to climb down a tree on the side of the cliff face to get down to the bottom of the waterfall. And they were like, no, we're not doing that today, Haley. We've just been walking all day. We're heading back now. And the 6-year-old girl threw a tantrum over this, as 6-year-old girls do. And she just sat on the floor and she refused to move any further. Unless they carried her, 'cause she wasn't going to walk any further. And they refused to do that. They're like, no, Haley, you're walking with us. We're walking back to the car now. And so they said, right, okay, well, if you're going to sit there on the path, we will just walk home without you. So they walked off down the path at a slow pace, constantly looking back over their shoulder to their 6-year-old granddaughter, who was still sat on the path throwing a tantrum. And eventually, as they were heading off into the distance, Haley got the idea and got up and was like, all right, wait for me, I'm coming, and toddled off after them. But after walking for a little while, she was like, I don't like the fact they're getting their own way, so started dragging her feet again. And so the grandparents were still gesturing her to catch up, but she was just dawdling, looking at her feet, just dragging her heels. And the grandparents were looking over their shoulder, making sure she was still in sight, walking on a bit, looking over their shoulder, making sure she's still in sight, walking on a bit. And the next time they looked over her shoulder, Haley was gone. She disappeared. So, quite rightly, the grandparents got into a bit of a panic, ran back up the path and started shouting Haley's name, and looked all over the area to see if they could find Haley, and they couldn't find the little girl. They looked off the path. They scoured the area for an hour, couldn't find her, shouting her name. Eventually, they realized they needed help, so they ran back to the car park, and they found some people that could help them, and eventually they got search and rescue, the fire department, the police, volunteers. There was in total around 250 people got involved for the search of Haley, and they absolutely scoured the area. Becky's saying it's buffering really bad. I don't know what else to do, Bex. I don't know what to do. The stream is experiencing issues. Yes, I know this. Streamlabs, I know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to do. I've done a test of the internet and it says I've got perfect internet connection. So I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
Unless we weren't due to Monte's on next Friday, but we could move this show to next Friday instead.
Yeah. Smile is saying maybe she just switch off all the electricity and maybe use some candles.
It's nothing to do with your household, I don't think.
I don't know.
It's either YouTube or it's Streamlabs. It's one or the other. There seems to be server issues going on. It's nothing to do with
I did a test. And
anybody's internet.
I'm getting 30 meg upload. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It's not that.
What can you do?
But if it's going to continue to interrupt us, it's going to be hard for people to stay with us, and it's going to be hard for us to get our stories across. So we were going to be ending up having a 3-week gap anyway because of some plans that were coming up, but maybe we reschedule the show to next Friday.
Shall I just finish this story? Just get to the end of this story, and then
we'll do the missing
and
part
then
2.
we'll do a missing part 2 next week. Maybe. Well, maybe we'll do that. Yeah. Okay. So, where did I get to? Yeah, they got a whole 250 people involved in the search for Haley, and they had search teams. They had dog search teams. They had helicopters in the sky with what do you call it? Infrared. What do you call?
Sorry.
Doesn't matter. You're not even listening to me. I'm
I was
the only
typing
person
to
I'm
the guys
talking
in
to
chat.
is you, and you're not even listening to me.
I was typing in chat to the guys.
Yeah, infrared cameras.
Night vision.
Night vision. Yeah, they had helicopters with infrared cameras, and they had people on horseback, dog teams, all sorts of people, and they scoured every inch of the whole canyon and the whole area within 2 miles of where she went missing, and they couldn't find her. And within the next 2 days, they still couldn't find her after 48 hours. Towards the end of those 2 days, the dog team, they cut up one of her dress-up clothes to get her scent and gave it to the packs of dogs. And the dogs got her trail, but it led them to a road where the trail fizzled out and the dogs couldn't find it any further. So they thought, well, she's been picked up by she's been picked up by a motorist and she's at a hospital, or she's been picked up by someone and gone God knows where. And she hadn't turned up at any of the hospitals. So yeah, it was, bad times. But then 51 hours into the search, so like 4 days literally into the search, outside of the search radius, 2 old guys were just out on a day hiking with their mules through the forest. They weren't a part of the official search team, but they thought, well, as they're out for a ride on their mules, they'll keep an eye out for the girl. And they were going along, and they happened to come across a stream where they met a 6-year-old girl sat on the side of a stream, dangling her feet in the cold water. And it was Haley Zager. They'd found her. And
good.
She was good and well. She was absolutely fine. So they take her back. She gets back to a hospital. Apart from a few scratches and some bidgy bites and that sort of thing, she's fine. And she tells her story that she was following her grandparents, and looking ahead of her, she was shuffling her feet and then keeping an eye on her grandparents and shuffling her feet. And then when she looked up, all she could see in front of her was trees. And she looked around, and all she could see was trees. So she just kept walking in a straight line through the trees and just kept walking and walking and walking until she was completely lost. In the end, she followed it up, finding her way up to high ground and finding a bluff overlooking the valley, where it was getting to night time. So she fell asleep on the rocky bluff and stayed there. She then says that during that night, a imaginary friend came to her, a 4-year-old girl named Alicia. And Alicia helped her.
My hair's standing up on my neck.
Helped her get down off the bluff, and the bluff was surrounded by a boulder field, and it was very steep and treacherous. But she said that Alicia stopped her from falling several times and guided her the way down to the bottom, and then guided her to a cave. So she stayed in this cave for 2 nights, where she also befriended a caterpillar, which she called Spot because it had a white spot on its head, and hung out outside the cave by the stream until this old couple found her. Now, she never had an imaginary friend before this, and she never had an imaginary friend after this. But if it wasn't for that imaginary friend helping her through it, she really wouldn't have known what to do. She, after coming out of hospital, there was many news articles about her. She was in newspapers, She went on Dateline America and told her story, and people watching that story did some research and realizing what she was saying, looked back, and it turns out that 23 years before she went missing, a 4-year-old girl called Alana disappeared on that exact same bluff and died there.
Wow, that is chilling.
Yeah, so there you go. So
That's a scary one.
So
It's a
anyway,
really good story, and I'm thinking that most people probably missed the whole shape of it, so we'll have to recover it
might
again.
have to redo the maybe have to
I've been
redo the
watching the
story
stream
next week.
I've been watching the stream, and we're literally it's literally cutting out every sort of 5 seconds.
All right, well,
So-
there we go. So sorry about that. I think technology has failed us this evening, so maybe we'll give it a go next Friday then.
Yeah, are you okay for next Friday?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Cool, and we're going to do it at the normal time at 8 p.m.
Yeah, so we'll see you maybe next Friday 8 p.m. to give this another go, and hopefully maybe technology will not fail us then. Sorry about that then. See you next week. Cheers.
Bye. Sorry, guys.
I know.